They say the closest bonds are forged within family, built on love, trust, and shared memories. But what happens when those bonds are tested? When a single moment threatens to unravel everything you thought you knew? This isn't just a story about betrayal. It's about the heavy weight of truth, the lines we cross to protect the ones we love, and the secrets that fester behind closed doors. It all started on an ordinary night in our quiet home, a night that would forever change the way I saw my brother. The signs were there, small cracks in his perfect facade, but nothing could have prepared me for what I discovered when I knocked on his door. Grab a seat. This one's going to make you question what loyalty really means. It was a typical Thursday evening, the kind that felt calm and predictable. The house was quiet except for the low hum of the television in the living room. My parents were out for their usual date night, a routine they never missed, and the responsibility of locking up fell to Ethan and me. Ethan, my older brother, had always been the family's golden boy. He was effortlessly charming, the type of person everyone gravitated toward. 2 years my senior, he carried himself with an air of confidence that I secretly envied. But lately, something about him had changed. He'd been acting strange, distant, distracted. He spent more time in his room with the door shut and his phone glued to his hand. Conversations with him had grown curt and evasive. Even at dinner, he barely touched his food, claiming he wasn't hungry, then disappearing upstairs. At first, I chalked it up to stress. He was juggling college and his long-term relationship with Clara, a sweet girl who practically felt like part of the family. But the signs became harder to ignore. Late-night whispers behind closed doors, muffled laughter, and the faint glow of his laptop screen spilling into the hallway at odd hours. I should have left it alone. I told myself it wasn't my business, that whatever Ethan was dealing with, he'd handle it. But that night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very, very wrong. It was just past midnight when I heard it, a soft murmur breaking the silence of the house. At first, I thought I was imagining things. But as I strained to listen, the sounds grew clearer. Voices. I sat up in bed, heart pounding. My parents weren't home yet, and there was no way anyone else should be here. I crept out of my room and into the hallway, where the faint glow under Ethan's door caught my attention. Pressing my ear to the door, I heard him speaking in a low, urgent tone. "I can't keep doing this," he whispered. A soft laugh answered him. A woman's voice. But it wasn't Clara's. My breath caught in my throat. I froze, torn between storming in and walking away. Maybe I'd misheard. Maybe I was overreacting. But that laugh, it wasn't just unfamiliar. It was intimate, filled with a warmth I'd never heard Ethan use with Clara. I couldn't stop the thoughts racing through my mind. Who was she? And what was Ethan hiding? The longer I stood there, the harder it became to ignore the growing knot in my stomach. I stood frozen outside Ethan's door, my heart hammering in my chest. Every logical part of me screamed to walk away, to pretend I hadn't heard anything. But something inside wouldn't let me. This wasn't just about curiosity. It was about the gnawing sense that whatever was happening in that room wasn't right. I clenched my fists, debating my next move. If I opened that door, there'd be no going back. The perfect image of my brother, the golden boy who could do no wrong, might shatter forever. And yet, I couldn't ignore the weight of what I'd heard. Finally, I mustered the courage and raised my hand. My knock was firm but hesitant, the sound echoing through the hallway. The voices inside immediately stopped. A tense silence followed, and for a moment, I thought he might ignore me. Then, I heard shuffling, hurried, frantic movements, as if someone was trying to cover their tracks. The door creaked open just enough for Ethan to poke his head out. His face was pale, his eyes wide with something that looked dangerously close to panic. "Hey," he said, his voice forcedly casual. "What's up?" I tried to peer past him, but he shifted his body, blocking my view. "Who's in there?" I demanded, my voice sharper than I intended. "No one," he said too quickly. "I was just on a call." But his words didn't match the tension radiating from him. My stomach churned as I realized I couldn't let this go. "Ethan," I said, my voice trembling. Move. His jaw tightened, and for a second, I thought he might refuse. But then he sighed, stepping aside. That's when I saw her. The sight hit me like a punch to the gut. Sitting on Ethan's bed was a woman I'd never seen before. She was wrapped in one of his hoodies, her legs tucked beneath her as if she were trying to shrink away from the moment. Her face was flushed, her wide eyes darting between Ethan and me, silently pleading for an explanation that none of us seemed ready to give. I couldn't speak. My brain scrambled to make sense of what I was seeing. This wasn't Clara, the bubbly, sweet girl we'd all grown to adore. This was someone else entirely. Who is she? I finally managed to choke out, my voice shaking with disbelief. Ethan ran a hand through his hair, his face a mask of panic and frustration. It's not what it looks like, he stammered. But his words only made it worse. Because it was exactly what it looked like. Not what it looks like. I shot back, my voice rising. Then explain it, Ethan. Explain why there's another woman in your room while Clara's at home thinking you're the perfect boyfriend. The woman shifted uncomfortably, her gaze fixed on the floor. I should go, she murmured, starting to slide off the bed. Ethan reached out, stopping her. No, wait. Wait for what? I snapped, fury bubbling to the surface. For you to come up with another excuse. Do you even hear yourself right now? For a moment, the only sound was the pounding of my heart. I couldn't believe this was happening. Ethan, the one person I'd always admired, was standing in front of me, his carefully crafted image crumbling. The woman gathered her things quickly, avoiding my gaze. As she walked past me, I caught a faint whiff of perfume, sweet and floral, completely unlike Clara's scent. When the door clicked shut behind her, the weight of the silence was unbearable. Ethan turned to me, his expression a mix of anger and desperation. You don't understand, he said, his voice low. Then make me understand, I shot back, tears stinging my eyes. Because right now, I don't even know who you are. He didn't answer. And maybe that was the most damning part of all. The next morning, the house felt eerily quiet, as if the weight of what had happened the night before had settled into every corner. Ethan and I hadn't spoken again after the woman left. He'd retreated to his room, and I to mine, each of us drowning in our own storm of thoughts. I couldn't shake the image of Clara's face from my mind. Her bright smile, the way she laughed at Ethan's terrible jokes, the way she genuinely believed he was the one. She had no idea the man she trusted so deeply was hiding a betrayal that could destroy her. Ethan cornered me in the kitchen before I had a chance to escape. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, his hair a mess. Listen, he began, his voice strained. You can't tell Clara. I stared at him, incredulous. You're joking, right? You expect me to keep this a secret? I'll fix it, he said quickly. I'll end it. It was a mistake, okay? A stupid, one-time thing. One time. I cut him off. You really expect me to believe that? I've seen the signs, Ethan. The late-night calls, the locked doors. How long has this been going on? He hesitated, and that hesitation was all the answer I needed. It doesn't matter, he said finally, his tone desperate. What matters is that Clara doesn't find out. I love her, okay? It was a lapse in judgment. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. A lapse in judgment. I repeated, my voice rising. You don't destroy someone you love, Ethan. You don't risk everything for whatever that was. His face crumpled, and for a brief moment, I saw a flicker of regret. But it wasn't enough. I'm not the bad guy here, he said weakly. I let out a bitter laugh. You're not. Then who is? Me. For finding out. Or Clara, for trusting you. The guilt ate away at me for days. Every time Clara texted me something sweet or sent a funny meme to our group chat, I felt like a co-conspirator in Ethan's lie. She didn't deserve this. She deserved the truth. But telling her would mean blowing up Ethan's life, and mine. In the end, the decision came to me late one night as I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Clara deserved to make her own choice about her relationship. She deserved honesty, even if it hurt. When I finally told her, I chose my words carefully, but nothing could soften the blow. The look on her face, the way the color drained from her cheeks, the way her eyes shimmered with tears she refused to shed, broke something in me. "Thank you for telling me," she said quietly, her voice steady but trembling. "I'm so sorry," I whispered, tears stinging my own eyes. She nodded, her gaze distant. "Don't be. You're not the one who hurt me." She left without another word. Ethan found out soon after and erupted. He called me a traitor, said I'd ruined everything, that it wasn't my place to get involved. I stood my ground, though it didn't make the sting of his words any less painful. Weeks passed, and the air in our house grew thick with tension. Ethan and Clara broke up, and while he claimed he was fine, the shadow of his mistake hung over him. I wanted to believe that I did the right thing, but part of me still wondered. Could I have handled it differently? Should I have let Ethan come clean on his own? In the days that followed, the house was a shadow of what it used to be. The laughter that once filled the halls was gone, replaced by a tension that clung to every corner. Ethan barely spoke to me unless he had to, and when he did, his words were curt and laced with resentment. I kept replaying the events in my mind, wondering if I'd done the right thing. There was no undoing the damage now. Ethan and Clara were over, and the family dynamic felt irreparably changed. Part of me wanted to justify my actions. Clara deserved to know the truth. She deserved a chance to decide for herself what to do with that truth. But another part of me couldn't ignore the guilt that lingered. Had I overstepped? Should I have let Ethan handle his mistakes on his own terms? What haunted me most was the look in Clara's eyes when I told her. It wasn't just the pain of betrayal, it was the shattering of trust, not just in Ethan, but in the entire picture of their life together. I tried to soften the blow, but there's no gentle way to destroy someone's world. I also couldn't ignore the cracks this had created between Ethan and me. He wasn't just my brother. He was my confidant, my protector, the person who'd always had my back. Now every interaction felt like a battlefield, each word weighed down by unspoken accusations. And yet, I couldn't bring myself to regret it entirely. Ethan's actions weren't just a mistake, they were a betrayal of everything Clara believed in, and it wasn't something I could stay silent about. This ordeal taught me that loyalty is complicated. It's not just about standing by someone no matter what. It's about holding them accountable when their actions hurt others. Love doesn't mean enabling. Sometimes, it means making the hard choices that force growth, even if it costs you something in the process. But the most painful realization? Sometimes, doing the right thing doesn't feel good. It feels messy, it feels lonely, and it leaves you questioning yourself in ways you never expected. If I could go back, I don't know if I'd do anything differently. Because at the end of the day, the truth had to come out, even if it shattered everything in its wake. Now, all I can do is hope that time will heal the wounds left behind. Hope that Ethan will find his way back to the brother I once knew. And hope that Clara, wherever she is, will find someone who treats her with the love and respect she truly deserves. Looking back, I realize that night changed more than just the way I saw my brother. It changed the way I saw myself, my family, and the complicated web of trust that binds us all. Sometimes, doing the right thing doesn't make you a hero. It makes you the villain in someone else's story. Ethan and I may never fully repair what was broken between us, but I can live with that. What I couldn't live with was staying silent while someone I cared about was being hurt. Clara deserved the truth, and Ethan needed to face the consequences of his actions, no matter how much it hurt. Life doesn't always give us clear answers, and the right choice often comes with a cost. But I believe that facing hard truths and choosing integrity, even in the messiest situations, is what defines who we are. So now I leave you with this. What would you have done in my place? Would you have knocked on that door, knowing the chaos it would unleash? Or would you have stayed silent, letting the secret remain hidden? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Wisdom Chronicles for more stories that make us question the gray areas of life. Until next time, stay strong, stay kind, and stay true to yourself.